All right, let's jump straight into this. Welcome, everyone. Today, we're tearing into the numbers, the combat math, and the underlying mechanics to finally solve a massive community debate. We are talking about one of the most controversial, epic purple hunter dragons in the entire game, Tashix. We're breaking her down today to figure out if she absolutely deserves a spot in your late game roster or if she's just kind of baiting you into losing troops. Because let's be real, we've all probably dumped a terrifying amount of resources into her before really understanding how she ticks.
You know, this quote perfectly captures the total casino-like experience of running this dragon. You're constantly rolling the dice on her damage output. One battle, she completely wipes the enemy board, and the next, she barely scratches their front line. It's crazy. So, we really need to figure out exactly why that happens, and more importantly, how you can actually control it.
Here's our roadmap for this breakdown. 1. The Tashix debate. 2. Mirage mechanics. 3. Star progression. 4. Matchups and counters. And 5. Top formations. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the Tashix debate, the casino dragon herself. Okay, so understanding her inherent risk is absolutely the only way you're going to build a team that actually solves it. You can't just throw her into some random lineup and expect consistent wins. If the game blessed or, cursed you with pulling her early on, you've probably asked yourself this exact question. Should you sideline a 7-star Tashix for someone a bit more reliable? Well, the answer lies entirely in how you manage her probability. Because underneath all that RNG, the stat ceilings on her abilities are genuinely terrifying. Moving on to Section 2, let's get into the math behind her shimmering Mirage mechanics. So, the absolutely crucial thing to understand here is that she's designed to get progressively deadlier as the battle drags on. Every single stack of Mirage she gains permanently boosts her fire damage by up to 2.5%, and this caps out at a massive 25% bonus at 10 full stacks. That is huge. Provided, of course, she can actually accumulate these buffs before getting focused down by enemy archers. And right here is where we see her core flaw. Notice that massive 50% divide? You are staring at a base coin flip every single round just to gain one single stack. This right here is what makes her feel so wildly inconsistent. If you lose that coin flip 3 rounds in a row, she's effectively fighting without a command skill. But if you win it 3 times, she just starts melting health bars. Following the combat timeline, you can see exactly when her nukes actually go off. Her command skill deals its physical damage in rounds 3, 6, and 9. Round 3 is really just a warm-up, but round 6, and especially round 9, oh man, that is where her scaled fire damage absolutely detonates. Surviving until round 9 is critical for that massive damage surge. If your team dies in round 5, you're literally just wasting her potential.
All right, Section 3, let's talk about her habits and star progression.
Before we even get into stars, we've got to look at her utility. If you level her up to 16 and place her in the Vanguard slot, she unlocks Hunter's Cunning. And suddenly, she's not just a selfish damage dealer anymore. She buffs her own recovery and intelligence, while simultaneously boosting your right flank's physical damage by 10%. That actually makes her a surprisingly effective enabler for your heavy physical hitters on the right side of your formation. Now, as you push her through the star levels, pay attention to how the game starts handing you safety nets. At 6 stars, you gain an extra 25% chance at the start of each round to get a Mirage stack, plus a chance to weaken enemies if you're sitting on 4 or more stacks. At 10 stars, boom, you get another 25% chance to stack. So by the time you max her out, you've stacked the deck so heavily in her favor that the early game RNG almost completely disappears.
And hitting that 10-star jackpot unlocks this absurd 150% fire damage blast. If you manage to reach 7 Mirage stacks, this triggers right at the start of the round and specifically targets the enemy with the most troops. It operates less like a normal attack and way more like an execution mechanic. This is the payoff, guys. This is exactly why you build a team around her.
Which brings us to Section 4, matchups and counters. Knowing exactly who to hunt and who to hide from.
So in a head-to-head matchup, her base habit, Enervate, specifically targets the enemy with the highest instincts and reduces their tactical damage by up to 22%. That means she's a direct, hard counter to high-instinct tactical nukers. Think Kaspaya, Vega, or Sivan. But, and this is a massive but, if you see Malachite across the battlefield, run. Seriously, his kit includes a 60% intelligence reduction that specifically targets hunters. It will completely, utterly neutralize Tashix's fire damage. She is dead weight against him.
Finally, Section 5. Let's look at the top formations to actually make her work.
We need to structure your lineup to mitigate all that RNG and keep her alive long enough to actually dish out the damage. This first setup is the Archer Synergy build. you're going to place Antares in the vanguard. Not only does Antares directly boost Tashix fire damage by 16%, but they also apply the vulnerable debuff to the enemy line. This sets up Soul Striker perfectly to deal just massive extra damage to those vulnerable targets. Basically, it makes your whole team incredibly lethal early on, which covers for Tashix while her Mirage stacks are slowly building up in the background. Now, if you're like me and you just want to eliminate the risk entirely and guarantee she survives, you run the defensive stall build. You pair her with Riss Orion, who reduces all incoming damage by up to 55% for the first 3 rounds, and Demaros, who randomly reduces enemy damage by another 37.5%. This creates an absolutely unbreakable wall. It buys you every second you need to roll the dice and guarantee she lives to see those round 6 and round 9 detonations.
So what is the grand strategy here? Just follow this exact combat flow. Step 1. Mitigate early damage using your Vanguard positioning or heavy stall healers. Step 2. Embrace the RNG and allow her Mirage chance to stack safely through round 5. Step 3. Reap the rewards and unleash those scaled nukes on rounds 6 and 9. You do this and you transform a wildly unpredictable, heavily debated dragon into a calculated, late-round giant slayer.
The numbers don't lie, right? She definitely requires investment, hyper-specific teammates, and honestly, a little bit of nerve. So, knowing what you know now about her hidden mechanics and that insane late-game scaling, I gotta ask, will you risk the early round gamble, or are you gonna play it safe and let your opponents secure that 10-star jackpot?